Hey there, 8th graders, and welcome to today's Explainer. I'm so pumped to be your guide today as we explore something absolutely fascinating: ecology and food webs. We're going to look really closely at how God designed life on Earth. And what you'll see is that this design isn't just some random accident. It's filled with incredible beauty, perfect order, and a really specific purpose. By looking at how living things grow, interact, and adapt, we literally get a front row seat to an amazing, interconnected masterpiece. Okay, let's dive right in. To really understand the why behind today's lesson, let's anchor ourselves in this beautiful verse. You open your hand and satisfy the desires of every living thing. Think about what that actually means. Every single living creature needs energy to survive, right? And this verse perfectly captures God's provision for all of that life. So when we understand how food webs work, we aren't just memorizing dry science facts. We're literally seeing how God provides for his creation. And understanding that provision, well, that teaches us about our own responsibility to protect it. All right, here's our roadmap for today using our what, how, and why framework. We'll hit 1, energy flow and producers; 2, consumers and decomposers; 3, chains versus webs; 4, ecosystems in action; 5, disruption and balance; and finally, 6, morality in education. Let's get to it. Section 1, energy flow and producers, the big idea. Okay, so the big idea of ecology is that energy flows through ecosystems, and it all starts from the sun, which brings us to your very first homework question. What exactly is the role of a producer in a food web? Before I give you the textbook definition, I want you to think about that word for a second: produce. To produce means to make or create something. So in nature, who are the makers? And that brilliantly illustrates our answer. A producer is a plant that literally makes its own food. They do this through a miraculous little process called photosynthesis. You can kind of think of plants as having tiny built-in solar panels. They capture raw energy straight from the sun and turn it into food. This is absolutely crucial because producers are the essential starting point for all energy transfer. Without plants capturing that initial solar energy, there'd be no food for animals and no food for us. They literally kick off the entire cycle of life. Section 2, consumers and decomposers. Continuing the cycle. So, the plants have captured the sun's energy, but where does it go next? Well, that's where our consumers come in. A primary consumer is simply an animal that eats plants. Picture a rabbit munching on some grass, or maybe a deer eating leaves. They're the very first eaters in the ecosystem, moving that energy one step further down the line. But hey, the cycle definitely doesn't stop there. Next up, we have secondary and tertiary consumers. These are the animals that eat other animals. So if a rabbit eats the grass, a snake might come along and eat the rabbit. That makes the snake the secondary consumer. And if a hawk swoops down and eats the snake, bam, the hawk is the tertiary consumer. What's really fascinating here is seeing how energy travels all the way up the system to those top predators who totally rely on the entire chain beneath them just to survive. All right, time for your second homework question. What happens when those plants and animals eventually die? Or, when they leave behind waste? Think about it. If nothing happened, the world would literally just pile up with dead things. Yuck. So, how do decomposers help that energy flow continue? Who steps in to clean up the mess? Enter the ultimate cleanup crew, the decomposers. We're talking about organisms like fungi, mushrooms, and microscopic bacteria. They break down dead waste. But here's the really cool how and why of it all. They don't just make waste disappear, they recycle it. They take whatever energy is left and turn it into vital nutrients, putting them right back into the soil. That makes the dirt rich and fertile so entirely new producers, new plants can grow. The cycle completes itself perfectly. Section 3, chains versus webs, modeling complexity. Now that we've met the players, the producers, consumers, and decomposers, we need to look at how scientists actually map them out. Which brings us to your third homework question. What's the difference between a food chain and a food web? They definitely sound similar, but I want you to mentally contrast those two ideas. What pops into your head when you think of a chain versus a web? As we can see here, a food chain shows one single direct path of energy transfer. It's basically a straight line. Grass to rabbit to snake. Simple, right? But a food web? That shows many connected paths. Because, let's be real, a hawk doesn't just eat snakes. It might grab a mouse or a frog too. A web shows the true, highly complex, and brilliantly interdependent nature of creation.
Every single creature is connected in multiple ways, supporting and balancing each other out. Section 4. Ecosystems in action. Real-world webs. It's time to zoom out and look at some real-world examples. Let's walk through our first one, a grassland web. You can really easily visualize the directional flow of energy here. Step 1 is the grass, our producer. Step 2 is the rabbit, the primary consumer. Step 3 is the snake, the secondary consumer. And Step 4 is the hawk, our tertiary consumer, soaring up above. It's just a perfectly ordered sequence. Now, let's dive underwater for our second example, because even in the vast ocean, this perfect pattern of design totally exists. Step 1 is algae, those microscopic producers capturing sunlight right in the water. Step 2 is zooplankton, eating the algae. Step 3 is a fish eating the zooplankton. And Step 4 is the shark, the apex predator, eating the fish. The environment is completely different, but the rules of God's design remain exactly the same.
For our third example, let's look at the forest floor to see how the whole cycle completes itself. Step 1, autumn comes and fallen leaves cover the ground. Step 2, mushrooms and bacteria, our decomposers go straight to work breaking them down. Step 3, all those rich nutrients get returned to the soil. And finally, Step 4, those nutrients allow brand new trees to grow. This brings the entire energy process full circle right back to the producers.
Section 5. Disruption and balance. The fragility of design. Now, as amazing as this system is, we do need to shift gears for a second to discuss how fragile it actually is. Here's your fourth homework question. What happens if one part of a food web is removed? Seriously, what if one species completely vanishes from the web we just looked at? I really want you to think deeply about cause and effect here. The answer? Total system collapse. Because ecosystems are a web, and they're highly interdependent. Removing even one single species damages the whole intricately balanced design. If a disease wipes out the grass, the rabbits starve. If the rabbits starve, well, the snakes have no food. When human actions like pollution or overfishing pull a crucial string right out of the web, the entire chain breaks down and everything suffers. Section 6. Morality in education. The godly learner's philosophy.
Let's zoom all the way out from biology for a minute to look at the overarching philosophy of why we even learn this stuff. This quote really represents our core philosophy. Education without morality will hurt. I mean, what's the point of being super smart if you just keep making bad choices, right? Understanding the science of a food web makes you smart, but using that knowledge to actually care for the earth, to choose not to pollute, that's morality. Science gives us the knowledge, but morality gives us the wisdom to use it for good. And you know, there's a beautiful promise tied to this whole approach. Romans 8:6-7 promises peace of mind to everyone who keeps their mind spiritual. This is our experience and the experience of so many folks who engage with this content. When you view your education through a spiritual lens, when you see science not just as a bunch of cold, hard facts, but as a way of exploring the brilliant mind of the Creator, it brings this profound sense of purpose, awe, and genuine peace of mind. I'll leave you with this final, kind of provocative thought to take away from today's explainer. What is the actual point of understanding God's incredibly complex and beautiful creation if we don't make the daily moral choices to protect it? Real education isn't just about what you know. It's about how you choose to live. Thanks so much for joining me today, 8th graders. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep making wise choices.